I could ask the panelists to please join me on the stage. That's Dr. Adatun Mustafa, Miss Selena Amoa, Miss Maritu Dumbaya, Mr. Raphael Ngumbu, and Miss Annette Kodayama. Sorry if I mispronounced the name. Please join us. Your name? No. You can sit in whatever order you'd like. You want to present first? Yeah. Okay. Your slides are up there, so that's sure. Yeah. Okay, I think we're all here. So let me just say that the format will be a couple of short opening statements from each of our panelists, and then we will open the floor for questions. So if you have questions for any panelist, hold them until everyone is done. You can write them down, and then we'll have plenty of time for discussion. So our first speaker is Dr. Adatun Mustafa.
So good morning, everyone. I got this note impromptu, so I just put up something. If I'd heard of this, I would have come with a lot more photos. But it speaks to many of the things we've all been talking about. I'm a member of the International Society for Environmental Epidemiology. I'm actually the counselor for Africa and the inaugural chair of the Africa chapter. So Raphael, Regina, Kofi, all of us are members. So we do. And when the WHO air quality guideline was being discussed, the revision in 2021, one of the things that happened was medical related societies came together. Each time you talk about air pollution, the health story about it and the impacts were actually left behind. So a coalition of public health related society, almost about over 60, we came together to put a position on when the guideline is being discussed. I was part of that. And this paper, I hope, okay, yes. So this paper was published at that time, and I'm going to give you an insight, the key message from there, before I come back to what I talked about in Nigeria. The important message from this, which was a shocker because we look at many epidemiological studies that have taken place, is that in terms of air quality, there is really no threshold to say it is safe. There is no threshold that you can say, okay, below 5, it is very safe. That is the reality. Even in areas where we already have low concentrations, we realize that if we move into this new guideline, everybody will benefit. So I don't want us to see air quality issue as an Accra issue, a Nigerian issue, an African issue. Even the most sophisticated, in fact, my colleagues from Germany, they tend to even be more, another part of Europe, tend to even be more challenging. You know, London is very polluted, and a lot of, despite the fact that they're already regulating emission, they're already using different strategy to dissuade people from traveling by car into the central zone, it's still polluted. So there is a lot of benefit in lowering air quality level. Please, if there's any message you will take away from there, is that everyone, even in where we consider the air quality level has become regional, when they reduce and make the air cleaner, there is a lot of benefit for every individual. So when this was done, one of the things we did in the committee was also to go to our different countries to advocate for this. So one of the things I did was I made this a sort of a press release with one of our online newspaper. Nigeria has the Nigeria Air Quality regulation of 2014. In early days of my career in the mid-90s, I actually took part in formulating the first, then it was Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR. They've changed their name over time. That was doing all sorts. At that time, we only look at PM10, total suspended particle. All we were trying to do is environment. We were not looking at the health impact, and things moved on. So when you look at the Nigerian air quality regulation of 2014, we don't even have standard for PM 2.5. So one of the things in this press engagement that we had was that for us as a country to actually use the guideline to formulate standard that will be good for the health of our community. And I'm glad that Dr. Rose Alani and my Professor Ewoma and many other people are getting interested in monitoring air quality in Nigeria. But like Jackie noted that even in Ghana, everybody is monitoring. We now need to come together to be able to harmonize our data and to be able to use it. Because when you look at, sometimes when you want to do meta-analysis and you pull some of our papers, our protocols are different. So it makes it very difficult to even synthesize a consistent message from everything we are doing. So for me as a Nigerian, the challenge is, yes, the WHO guideline is there, but how do we then use many of the good work that are now emerging to set a standard? And for me, that is the message. It is no longer about looking for evidence that air quality, we need to convince anybody. I used to joke with some of my colleagues. I'm not saying that air quality is one message, is one area that we are overstudying. There is no study you will find that will tell you that air quality is good for anybody. So I think we now need to begin to move into the solution space to say, how then can we protect our people, bearing in mind that there is no threshold that is safe? Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Maria Tudumbuya from the National Environment Agency of the Gambia. This morning, I will just give a brief of the activities that we do as an agency in the Gambia. Now, I wouldn't talk much about the issue of air quality at worldwide level or Africa or maybe the ECOWAS region, but I'll go directly to talk about what is currently happening in the Gambia as in air quality issues. The National Environment Agency of the Gambia is set based on an regulations, or let's say amendments from the parliament to share that the NEMA, which is the National Environment Management Act 1994, was enacted in 1994, and it gave powers to the state to set up a secretariat for the management of the environment. And the main responsibilities that we are given to the agency were both regulatory and also coordinating roles. Now, when it comes to activities that have other institutions doing them, the agency coordinates, making sure that it brings all parties together to be able to function in those lines. In situations where the agency is the only one doing the work, then we do mostly regulatory activities on those kind of activities. When it comes to air quality in the Gambia, we've not have a lot of studies around it, but there are studies that were done by the International Health, the Institute for Health and Management Evaluation in 2019, which had affirmed that in the Gambia, 79% of the population is relying on fuels that are not clean, and only 3% of the country is using clean fuel, which, even though there are no much studies, had brought to the mind of the regulators or the decision makers that something needs to be done as a country. So from there, the agency thought of coming up with policies, regulations, and what implementation could be done in terms of reducing those amount of people using the unclean fuels within the country. So first, one of the regulation, or let's say the legal tool that the country had developed is the NEMA, which is the National Environment Management Act that I've talked about. So from it, if you go to section 63, subsection 3, it gives the council for the agency to be able to develop laws like regulations like the environmental quality discharge regulation, the environmental quality regulations 1999. And also we went ahead to develop the road traffic, the Gambia Motor Traffic Act in 1997. We also had the Public Health Act in 1999. And the National Environment Management Ozone Depletion Substance Regulation in 1999. These are some of the regulations that the agency had thought of or with sister institutions were developed to make sure that at least issues around air quality will be coped. But to reiterate what previous speakers had said, we do not have specific regulations on air quality. And this gives the country a lot of challenge when it comes to regulating air quality. Like standards specifically are not set to say that these are some of the things that we should do as in regulating air quality. The main policy that the country is using is the Gambia Environment Action Plan, the 3rd edition. This is like the strategy that is the country is using as in working towards having a clean environment for the state. However, if you go through this document, you realize that the issue of environment quality is not addressed as expected. The National Health Policy 2012-2020 also touched a bit on the issue of air quality and the relationship between air quality and public health. But you can realize that still there are a lot of gaps when it comes to the document too. Recently, the Gambia's long-term climate natural development strategy for 2050 was also developed. However, looking at the status of the country and people not much understanding the issue of air quality had shown itself again in this document. And you can see that there are so many gaps when it comes to this data, this document too. Because when I was invited to this activity, I had to quickly go back to most of these documents to see what are the provisions in them as in air quality. And I've realized that there are a lot of gaps when it comes to taking care of air quality issues in the country. Some of the implementations we are currently doing in taking care of the air quality is, for the agency, we've set a program called the Ozone Depletion Program that looks at issues of emissions as in CFCs and HCFs. Also going ahead to train people, technicians who are working along that line. We also have the Environmental Quality Standard Board, which we had to set up to make sure that they support the agency in issues of environmental quality standards. Currently, we also have a project that is funded by Jeff under the office, which is the PCB UPOP's capacity building project. Now, one of the components for this project is looking at what are the UPOPs that have been emitted from open door burning and certain activities we do that adds up to emissions that really affects our air quality. What the project does is to train people who are handling waste, especially solid waste, and giving them advice on not to be burning their waste, and also communities to make sure that people reduce the quantity of waste that we are burning. Instead of burning, can be changed to biomass or other kind of activities that will at least reduce the amount of emissions that we are doing. We are also partnering with other departments like the Ministry of Health. They have some few sensors that was given to them by, I think, this project, if I am right. But one of the problems as an agency we are having with those monitors is, at the end of the day, the readings that they give us is healthy and unhealthy, which as an agency, we needed more to give to the public when it comes to technical insight than just saying the quality of the air today is unhealthy or is healthy. So we were looking at issues like what is the PM levels as in PM10, PM2.5, and these were some of the things we could not relate to the community. And you talk to people like lawmakers with data, with informations like healthy, unhealthy, they will not take you seriously because they need more. So we thought as a state we need to do more. And what we are giving is not enough for now.